as well. They're also heavily involved. And then suddenly, you have this dispute about something that important, and he basically says, well, hang on a second, you're contradicting yourself. It's not a good look at all.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our latest episode of Pioneers Pathway podcast. As always, you're joined by your favourite two co-hosts. My name is Liam Villani, and I'm joined by my great friend Sharia Garku. How are you doing, Sharia?
All well, Liam. All well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all. It's been quite a turbulent, I'd say turbulent, but quite a rapidly changing couple of weeks in the world news, world politics, and we've got an interesting one. You can be friends with someone at one point, and then a week later you could be the biggest enemies in the world, right? And there's no one else like Donald Trump and Elon Musk to be able to portray that effectively, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, we saw, I'd say, for the best part of a year, right? They were essentially joined at the hip. You wouldn't see them apart. Political rallies, this, that, every sort of appearance. You see them going together, UFC events, all sort of public appearances. Now then, what you see 5-6 months into Mr. Trump's second tenure, they're falling out, and it's not something that you see. It's not low-level falling out. It's gone public. It's been very visible. They accuse each other of God knows what. So, I mean, no, it's been quite volatile, and especially when you have two guys of that political influence. Obviously, you've got the richest man in the world, and you've got the president of basically the most powerful country in the world. If they're going at it against each other, it's never really going to end well, is it?
That's true, and I think it all started off with the Build Back Better, or the big. I'm not too sure what the bill's called, but it was
Big Beautiful Bill.
Here you go, the Big Beautiful Bill, which was passed by the Republican sort of majorities in the Senate and the House. A lot of tax cuts, a lot of hikes in spending, and basically it's going to increase the deficit in the states by quite a significant deal. Obviously, there's pros and cons of this. Nothing's ever like the most amazing thing in the world. Everything's going to have its issues. But I think Elon Musk really criticized the fact that after using Doge as a tool for cutting government spending, you're now just going to walk back on all of the money you've saved over the last year or so, right?
No, absolutely, and it never really reflects well when you've been calling out previous presidents for increasing the deficit, and you yourself are increasing the deficit. So Elon's been quite smart with the way he's playing it. I mean, that's essentially his point, really. He's bringing up all of Trump's old tweets. He's saying, well, you criticize this president for increasing deficit there, and you're doing the same thing yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, when you sort of have that going on, that's really going to hit Trump's image as well, because you have the most powerful, man in the world being criticized by the richest man, who again is quite influential. And with that really influential rich person has been backing you from the start, right? You even gave him a special position in the government. Well, obviously Elon has, he can only serve a certain number of days. But when you have that, you've given someone that role as well. They're also heavily involved, and then suddenly, you have this dispute about something that important, and he basically says, "Well, hang on a second, you're contradicting yourself." It's not a good look at all.
That's true. It's sort of it's sort of the worst of the worst, because you've got the richest man in the world, who's obviously has so much power in a lot of different industries, and you've got the most powerful man in the world, who's also got a lot of money himself, right? So it's interesting how this will go. Elon Musk's got Tesla, Twitter, he's got SpaceX. He's got big companies with a big platform. But you're starting to see that it's not as easy going for Elon Musk, right? You've had big boycotts of Tesla because of his government work. Twitter has decreased in value significantly since he purchased it. Well, X now. It's not as easy going. I think, in my opinion at least, I think Donald Trump's got the upper hand, right? Nobody can escape the reach of the government, right? The government is powerful because they decide whatever they want to do, right? He was the one elected. He's got the mandate. He's got the power. And I always remember, like, in 1910 with the Rockefeller Standard Oil court cases, when they broke up Standard Oil and basically put a lot of negative stuff on Rockefeller. It's the government who can control. You have a lot of money, but if you fall out with the government, they can cause significant harm. And it's the case with SpaceX, with the government contracts, Tesla, with Twitter X to an extent as well.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like you said, right, if you look at SpaceX, for example, a significant proportion of their funding does come from the government, right? Obviously, Elon has other entities, like you mentioned, which are seeing, more sort of negative downturn. But SpaceX in particular, which is, heavily involved with the government. Now, if, and Trump has publicly said that he is not scared to cancel these contracts. Now, if he does go ahead with these things, right, which is still up for debate whether he will. Trump is someone who you never know, right? You can never, give the thing that, okay, it's an empty threat. You just absolutely never know with him, right? So when you have all these entities and you're getting a significant amount of, government funding, and meanwhile, your competitors in China, especially for Tesla, right? If they are getting a huge amount of funding and suddenly your funding is cut, where does that leave you in the global economy? Especially when you're trying to expand, even like obviously now Tesla is trying to expand into India, Europe they're seeing a decline. So obviously you also have to think about these things as well.
It's never good when there's one. Monopolies are never good, and I think Tesla became that. SpaceX definitely in the space industry. I actually think it could be good, right? Because in these industries, obviously, space it's hard, all right, for any new incumbent to try to move in and compete, and it's the same with the electrical car industry as well. But there are players out there, and if we can be a bit more competitive instead of just have everything go to Elon Musk and his associated companies, this can actually be a lot better. But I think there needs to be some strategy behind that, not empty veiled threats like Donald Trump tends to do.
No, absolutely, absolutely. But the issue with that is that you've had, other companies, EVs, established in the US, but a lot of them have struggled, right? If you look at Rivian, if you look at this, the IPO price they had, and the price that they're at today, it's a drastic decline. Right, their biggest investor had an order of I think 100,000, and they cancelled. I mean, if Jeff Bezos was backing you at one point and he's not wanting to back you anymore, that's obviously a huge dent. I think Fisher as well have gone in administration. So obviously you'll have to look at these things. Meanwhile, the Chinese government, they're quite, they've invested a lot already in the EV space, and I'm sure they're going to continue doing so. They want to become the leading player. Now, obviously, that's going to affect Tesla dramatically as well.
It's true. That's true. I think there needs to be the understanding of the broader repercussions of that. Looking at sort of less of the business stuff, but politically, he's also said he's going to move to set up a new political party. What's your thoughts on that? It's interesting.
Well, first of all, we have to question: is this merely a retaliation, or has Elon suddenly, grown an interest in becoming a politician? Right? Well, let's be honest, right? If Elon does want to become a full-time politician, it's really going to, have a dramatic impact on the rest of his businesses, right? Will shareholders in Tesla, SpaceX, and all these other various entities be happy with him engaging in politics? I don't think so, right? So maybe, it's just something he's doing purely out of retaliation. That's my personal thoughts. I don't know about you.
I think to an extent it's true, but also lowering a two-party political system, it's very hard for smaller parties or others to come up. I think in America the closest that was Perot, who was in the 1970s or 80s. He was the I believe he. if I'm not mistaken, and I may potentially be, he was in the election which Bill Clinton won. Was it Bill Clinton? Yes, it was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton won against my little politics buff, the politics hat on. In the 1970s or 80s, I can't remember exactly. Don't hold me to it. George H.W. Bush lost, became a one-term president when and Bill Clinton won. And in that election, the third-party candidate Ross Perot fielded a significant majority, which sort of lost it for George H.W. Bush. That was the closest America's ever come to a third-party sort of alternative candidates, and you see it in the UK as well. Okay, Reform and the Lib Dems are doing good, but will they ever become one of the majority parties like the Conservatives or Labour, or have that power? I question, right? And I think it's the same in America. Everyone knows the Republicans, the Democrats. They are the major parties. They are sort of the Big Ten parties. I don't think Elon Musk's is it the America Party?
I can't remember the name, but I'm sure we can get it on screen for you.
I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna grow to anything the same size as with the Republicans or the Democrats. But I think it will become sort of like a policy kind of influence, and I think that would be good. I think that would be good. It's good to get alternative views in there. But he's got the money to back it as well.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like you mentioned, right, it's not easy to establish a third party when you have the history of the Republicans, you have the history of the Democrats. But on the other side, Elon Musk has the money. If there's anyone who could, establish sort of, I won't say a full-blown party, because, after Elon's, decides he wants to step away from politics, I doubt it'd be very, sustainable. But at least temporarily, if there's anyone who can sort of create a third sort of, it would never be a full-blown party, right? It would always be like significantly smaller than the Democrats and the Republicans.
But that does
if
matter.
there's anyone who can do it, it's Elon, I think.
And it can still influence. If you look at in the UK, and to be honest, I think if you look in India as well, the smaller parties have significant influence, and without their support, the bigger parties can't do much. Especially with the coalitions in India, the Big Ten sort of the alliances, it's the smaller parties which carry a lot of influence. So you never know what's going to happen, really. You never know what's going to happen, really. But yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'm sure by next week or the week afterwards, there'll be completely different news to update you about this. So yeah, we'll try and keep the conversation going. And if you have anything to say, just get in touch with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts. But yeah, cool, guys. We'll catch up with you soon, and have a nice week.
Thank you, everyone, for